Hello lovelies and welcome to today's video. So I have a 12 by 12 process video today, and this was done for the Natalie May March challenge, and the theme was over the rainbow. And I was actually lucky enough to win the challenge with this layout, so I was very excited by that. This is probably one of my most favorite layouts I've done for a long time. It's something I haven't done before, and you'll see why in a minute. So with the rainbow theme, I'm starting with my watercolors, and I am just giving myself a watercolor background. So with my watercolors, when I watercolor, I like to use a decent amount of water because I like the blend. Obviously, know your color theory, so when wet on wet will blend. So as you can see, my red and my blue are blending together a little bit, and I'm not overly thrilled with the color. But the good thing about watercolors is it's really quite easy to fix in this sense. If you don't want so much of a blend, dry between adding colors. I wanted a little bit of a blend, but not a huge amount, if that makes sense. You'll see what I mean. The good thing about watercolors is if you're not happy with a color, add some more water. Water acts like your white. It helps dilute your color, take your color away, and also paper towel is your best friend, as you will see. So I've spritzed some water on my cardstock. I'm just using some regular, I think this is American Crafts cardstock. It's my go-to because it's easily accessible for me. And then I'm just going in, I've spritzed my background with some water. I've got a wet mop brush. This is my favorite brush to do big watercolor backgrounds with. And splatters, of course. I just love this brush. It's the biggest one I own in the mop. I think it's a 24. Anyway. So I've used some water, I've got a wet paintbrush, and I'm just adding it to my background, and then I'm coming in with water, more water when I want more of a blend or to feather out my edges. Now to add my splatters, I'm making sure, well, I started to, but then I got a bit carried away, making sure my colors are dry, because if I try and add splatters on top of wet watercolor, it's just going to blend in and it's just going to feather out. It's not going to give me my splatters. It has to be dry. If you want a color to hold its shape, you need wet on dry. Wet on wet will blend, wet on dry will stay, if that makes sense. So I'm making sure my background is dry, which is why I've kept in the whole drying time, because normally I cut all this out, but with a watercolor layout it's very important to show you. This is why I've got those splats holding their shape, because I'm making sure my background is dry. Now I'm usually very impatient and just continue on with my backgrounds as is, and I end up with a lot of warping, which doesn't usually bother me because once it's in my album it's fine. But I've been watching a fair few mixed media backgrounds lately, and they run their layouts through either a laminator or their Mink machine, and it really helps flatten it out. Now I have a Mink. I actually misplaced it for a while. I couldn't figure out where it was. I knew it was in a box somewhere, but I couldn't figure out where. Found it. It was in my wardrobe. So I plugged it in downstairs in my art room, and I just ran my layout, once it was dry, through the Mink, and it really helps just flatten and straighten it out, which really helps footage and photos, but also just gives you a nice flat straight layout to work on. So I do recommend doing that if you've got a warped page. Make sure everything's dry first though. Now this is where I get a little different. I decided to come in with sequins. I have a lot of sequins. I very rarely use them. I have been using them a little bit on my layouts lately because I have been watching, is it Jennifer Michaels, I think? And I love how she adds the sequins to her embellishments and her backgrounds, and it just gives it a little something extra. So I have been using sequins a little bit lately, not like this. I have never done a layout like this. So I went to town with the sequins. I matched up the colors with my background, and yeah, I added sequins above and below where my photo was going to go. Originally, when I started this layout, I had printed off a 4x6 photo. I'll tell you about the photo in a second. But I really wanted this rainbow background to really be the focal point of this layout, so I needed a smaller photo. So I went and reprinted the photo in 3x4, and it just works much better. So I've put sequins above and below where my photo is going to go, And then once I glue them all down, I'm going to come back in and fill in the spaces around my photo. Now, because I was really gung-ho to get this happening, this should have been one of the last things I did on my layout. I really should have done the sequins much further on in the layout, but this was my big idea. This was the idea I had, the watercolor, rainbow, and then the sequins. That's as far as I got with my planning. So you'll see me come in with some stamping and that later on, which in a perfect world I would have done before the sequins, but it still works. But yeah, you'll see what I mean. So I have this really cool tool. I have a newer one now, which is pretty cool. It's just a wax stick, and it really makes the difference in picking up your sequins. So literally I pick up a sequin, glue. I didn't record the entire thing, so you didn't have to watch me stick down all of my sequins. But if you have a sequin tool or a wax thing, there is a pickup tool that I have, but I find this worked much better. With my pickup tool from Stampin' Up, I struggle sometimes in putting it back down on top of the glue. I find that the putty is actually stronger than the glue, so it just comes back up. This wax stick, it worked really, really well. It's just a cheapy wax stick I think I got off Temu. I do have a diamond tool. I believe it's officially made for a diamond tool, but it's just got a wax tip. It's really cool. But yeah, makes all the difference in picking them up and putting them back down. It's so much easier. And it really releases the sequin once it's on the glue. Anyway, that's enough about me going on about a tool. But yeah, this is where I come in with my stamping. So I've gone and gotten some Distress Oxide inks to match the colours of my rainbow. I did quite well in matching up my colours, actually. I was very proud. And now I'm coming in with just some basic circles. I didn't want a lot of over-the-top stamping. I did want to keep with my rainbow and obviously the shapes that I've got going. You can see the sequins are circles, so it just felt like it was enough to add interest, but not too much to be over the top. I'm looking at a page full of sequins and I'm saying it's not over the top. You know what I mean. I do come in with another stamp in a minute in black, and I really do love the contrast and find that it just brings the whole layout together. So yes, I've got all my rainbow and it's a lot of color. And this is my fabulous picture. This is Ruby and her tongue is black. So Ruby has the lovely habit of putting everything in her mouth, as most toddlers do. But in this instance, she sucked the black out of a Crayola texter. I mean, literally, there is a video on my Instagram where the nib of the black texture is no longer black. She'd sucked it to death and had turned her entire mouth black. So her tongue, her teeth, they're all black. When I originally had the idea to do this layout, I thought I would get a photo and turn it black and white because I thought it would pop more. But then I saw this photo and it just works. So I love the contrast of that massive rainbow behind her and then this black tongue and the story behind it. So that's why I felt that this photo just went really well. This is that stamp I was talking about. It's just another small circle stamp. And I've just put it over the top of some of those coloured blobs, and it just really helps bring everything together. I thought maybe I had gone too much in doing this when I started it, but then when I looked at it, it just really helps tie everything together. It gives me a nice continual contrast between all the colours, and you can just see I love it. It just ties everything together. So I really wanted my layout to say Crayola is non-toxic, right? But that was going to be too big, and it would have looked, in my mind, I think it would have looked a little weird having that such a long title just down one side. And so in the end, I just add that to my journaling, and I just go with this oh yeah. So I've mentioned before in my videos, I have a lot of thicker words, and this was one on one of those sheets. And I also found, I went to my Vicky Bouton Colour Study stash. I have a big bag full of it. And I found this colour wheel that I thought would work quite nicely. And then I've got this vellum piece that just says this here. So I put it on some white cardstock and cut it out just to make it pop off that colour wheel a bit. I do decide to move my layer, my title down a bit, because I felt it was just blending in too much with the colours, and putting it a bit down the bottom on some white space just really helped it pop a bit more. There was also these really cute colourful hearts, puffy stickers in the Colour Study collection, and I was lucky enough to find that there was a colour for each of my colour of the rainbow, so I've just plopped them down in a few areas just to add some interest. I'm adding my journaling of the lovely story I told you of, you know, Ruby sucking the black out of a textile, which I didn't even know was possible. And yeah, that's it for my layout. So I absolutely adore this layout. It is one of my most favourite I have done in a long time. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll be back real soon. Bye for now.